Greetings and welcome to this episode of Everyday Enchantment. Today I have the honor of jamming and talking with Esperanza Lebron, who is a magical coach who works with women to close the gap between impossible goals, the things you think you could never do on this planet, but your heart really wants to do. How do you actually get started with something like that? That is Esperanza's magic. And I had the honor of meeting her now a couple of years ago. And today we're going to talk about when you're not quite sure about your intuition and you're a little, you're a little skeptical. How do you step into using enchantment and intuition to really create the things you want in life? So we're going to have an honest chat about that today. I cannot wait for you to listen to this episode.
Hi.
Greetings! Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, so fun.
I'm
This
so
is the
happy to be
best
here.
job on the planet. Welcome, welcome. So I probably missed a couple things about all of the incredible badass things you are doing. If you want to share anything else with all the listeners, like how did you get here? How did you find yourself working with these impossible goals? I just love the way you describe that.
Yeah, I think that's been my work my entire life. And I'll give you the very shortened down version. But when I was 15, I had my first son at 15, my second son at 17, and I was in the I was your full stereotypical teen mom on welfare. I mean, if there ever was an underdog, that was definitely me and my story. Most likely not to succeed, to not really go places. And the impossible goals things came in because back then my first impossible goal at the age of 21, so my sons are already like 5 and 6, I think 4 and 5 around that age, and the very first thing was get a high school diploma. Not a GED, not that there's anything wrong with a GED, but
Sure.
I found a program that allowed non-traditional students to come back to high school here in Texas and get their high school diploma. So I was like, let me just try. And I can tell you back then, like thinking about becoming the person that just had a high school diploma was such a big gap for me. It was such a big gap for me, but that was the very first one. And in, I think it was like 5 months, I finished all of the requirements that I needed to, because I dropped out in 10th grade. I dropped out in 10th grade. So I finished all the requirements and I decided to try to go to community college. And then from community college, I was like, well, what if I try university? So my impossible goal just started building from just taking messy action way back when. And so that became from high school dropout, teen mom, living in Section 8 housing in the projects. And then fast forward to 5 years of crazy, intense, hard work, and talk about belief in yourself. I was an Army officer, I had a master's degree. Like I get emotional thinking about it
Oh,
because
yes, because you did so many impossible things, absolutely, and you're just getting started.
yes, totally just getting started. Totally.
You
And
know
oh,
go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, the impossible thing back then, like I didn't know anything about visualization or intuition or mindset, really. I didn't have anyone modeling that for me in my own life or following anyone back then. And that was such a big part of my process that I didn't realize I was doing. So I was coaching myself, like just pretending and seeing it. But what if I could do it? And I was so scared. And, I had like, I say like the people against me saying like, you can't do this. Who are you to even think that big? And all along it was just like this little voice, like, but what if you can do it? Just keep going, just try it and see it.
Well, and that listening to you describe it that way reminds me that we actually do all know how you don't need. I mean, it's wonderful to have all these tools and hear about them and bring them in because I think it makes life easier. But we also are wired within us to have these gifts and have this kind of this, I don't even know what you want to call it, compass to say, hey, I love how you just worded that messy step toward this goal. doesn't have to be perfect. Just try, see what happens. And you already intuitively knew, like, without having any resources yet, to be able to, like, yeah, let me do this. Let me see what happens. And I know your magic is here, as you know, I've said this many, many times. You are a huge ass change agent for this planet. Like, what you're doing, how you're affecting people, your work in the world is helping people, again, see what seems impossible to me, what I would say seem or be inevitable. And that's
Mm.
how we're gonna change the planet, right? When everybody goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna try that, and I'm gonna be messy and do it," and all of that, and it's like, just to listen to you because you've lived it yourself, and I think that creates such an authenticity, because a lot of people are telling people what to do, but they haven't actually done it, tried it, experimented, flailed around in it, and been really real in it as well.
Oh, yes. And just like the way that you described it, that is what I call iconic vulnerability.
Ooh. I gotta get into one of your programs.
Yeah.
I love it. Iconic vulnerability. Say more, please, please, please.
Yeah. So I'm writing a book
Oh, of
and it's
course
called
you are.
Iconic Vulnerability. But the way that that came out is I've always thought that vulnerability leads to greatness. You know, we hear about this, Brene Brown talks about it. So
Mhm,
many people in the world talk about it, but yet there's such a gap of actually what vulnerability is
mhm.
and how we can show up in the most authentic, vulnerable state in order to facilitate massive change and massive growth. Because if you think about it, like, I used to be so ashamed of that version of me. I was so
Mm,
ashamed of her. Like, I didn't want nobody to know that that
mhm.
was me. And I said, 5 years, I did all that in 5 years. And I did that because I was trying to outrun her. I was trying to
Wow.
like hide and clothe myself in something different so that nobody ever looked at me like that again.
Yeah.
And after a while of doing this, like, I'll say my first couple years in the army and my first promotion, and I was leading people. People were looking at me like that leader on the outside, and on the inside, I
Mhm,
was such an imposter because I
mm.
never like spoke that truth about me. I never healed that part. I never told that part like I'm so proud of you. It was always just constant work to be better, to become someone different when I was already the most amazing enoughness version that I was. I just didn't know it.
Oh, I think that's just gonna resonate so widely for people because I think you're right. We're always being taught by the world to be better versions of ourselves, that there's something inherently not okay with who all of the versions of us, all the pieces and parts of us that somehow we need to, get beyond or past, or there's this destination that when I get to whatever the success markers are, right? I've graduated college, I've made $1 million, what, fill in all the blanks, that somehow I will be worth it, right? There's worth in there, there's confidence, all these things that you're talking about. And I think, especially as women, most of us, our dreams of like, it's like, oh, you have a dream here, make it fit so everybody else is comfortable with it,
Yes.
not blow the shit up. And who cares? The world is gonna need to respond to us rather than us having to be in the world's, like, tight boxes and things like that.
Absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely, and even to go along with that, like what we see out in the world,
mhm,
when I was finally getting back into like personal development and trying to figure out how do I build I didn't even know the word capacity back then, but like how do I build space and capacity for who I actually am so that this part can come out and it's not
mhm.
like I've got 5 degrees on the wall and I still feel like I'm not enough, like I'm
Yeah,
not smart enough, like I'm not confident, like what is the missing link? And I noticed that there wasn't very many people that I could resonate with, right? So I know
yeah,
like Rachel Hall is
mhm.
doing all of this amazing stuff in the world, but there was no like sticky piece that
Yeah.
she didn't have a background that was similar. Like I couldn't find someone like me. And then I realized people need to hear more of the hard shit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they
People
do.
need to hear more of that. They need to hear the struggle because when you show up with the struggle, people see that breakthrough that you had in you for them. That's the power of iconic vulnerability. That's why I'm so passionate about it now.
I'm in. I am in the pool with you. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. All the things. And so you and I, when we first met, one of the things that we had some fun with, or again, my kind of superpower out in the world is how when people are out changing the planet and creating all of these things, how do they come in to their own knowing and use it intentionally, intuitively, again, in ways that create what I don't know, the world would call magic, but that it's actually very easy to tune into it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that look
Yes.
at me and go, I don't know about that, Stace.
That was me.
So tell me when we first started playing around, and again, we were just talking about things, how to use your intuition. I would love to hear your mindset, like what
Yeah.
did the skeptics say? Because I think there's nothing wrong with embracing the part of us that is skeptical.
Yes. So I was definitely that skeptical one where I thought it was very woo. It was very
Mm,
weird. I was actually a little bit afraid. Like, I don't know
mm,
what any of that stuff is. I'm kind of scared. Like, it's like I let me just preface to say that I am a Christian and I've always been a prayer. Like I pray to God and I've
mhm,
like all the time. But I actually felt like it was kind of wrong to open up like
mm.
open up to my spiritual side or my intuition, as it felt like I was going against something, but I didn't know what it was.
Interesting.
That's what made me afraid, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. And so what happened? What changed? I'm so curious
Yeah.
how you made space, because you are a big space holder, for the the Christianity and the spiritual to be in a place together.
Yeah, it really was you, Stacey. So for anyone listening to this that has not like really been in Stacey's sphere or worked with you, like you really helped me. First, you met me where I was. I mean, when
Mm,
you and became friends, I was just kind of curious and, I would hear what you would say and I would hear it like echoing in my head throughout the day. And back then I was like not the person that would even pull up an oracle deck or like a card. Like I'm like, "Oh, that's too woo for me." And I think it was like inviting, but what if you made it look so safe? You made it look
mm,
like love. Like, it's not nothing that's like scary. And I think that really helped open me up to playing in it a little bit.
yeah.
And um, when I learned more about you and your story and Jack,
Oh, Jack,
yeah,
yes. He has his own podcast episode, so if
I
nobody
listened to
knows
it.
who Jack is, go listen to that episode. It's 11, and it's that magic number 11. Somehow Jack ended up there.
Of course.
Of course,
Yes.
exactly.
And I think you told me about the Book of Signs, and
Mm,
for just to say, I lost my husband in 2014 in a motorcycle accident, and it was very sudden and tragic. And I, when I met you, and you had the cardinal, there's always been a cardinal after James died that would visit me, and
mm,
I really like felt connected to you just by that one little thing. Well, not
yeah.
just by that, but that was such a big thing for me. And then just like leaning into curiosity and what that could look like for me. And then when I reached out and I was like, Stacey, I want a reading. I
Mhm.
want I want to learn more. I knew that I could do it with you because I felt so safe.
I think that's a really good point because whether you're working on your intuitive gifts and you want to, again, you're curious and you want to step in, emotional safety, spiritual safety, even when you're working in iconic vulnerability and creating impossible dreams that you're like, whoa, how did that happen? We can't bypass, and I've seen you do this so well, Esperanza, because you've done things for me that I'm like, my mind is blown. You cannot bypass a person's safety,
Mm,
and I think a lot of times that's can be a missing piece because we're being told what to do. Yes, do this, but it's not about telling somebody it's safe. It's about how do we create spaces for ourselves and each other where, again, you hold the space to say yes, but it doesn't have an agenda or an attachment. I love how you said it meets us where we are.
yes.
So I would never, just as a personal coach, reader, anything, I never try to take people too far into anything, nor do I want to be taken too far into anything without that feeling of like, do I feel again like I'm in a container that is love based, not fear based? And I think a lot of times, to your point, people have gotten really scared about intuition because of different belief systems and what have you. And there's a lot of fear there. I'm going to access something that's going to hurt me, or I'm going to get in to something that's scary. And I don't know how to, like, what will I do while I'm there? And I've had many of those moments myself. And I love to remember, and I don't know if this is helpful or if you found this helpful. I don't even know if I said this to you before. We always have our own sovereignty and agency. So if anything, as we are getting curious and playing feels too much, always have the right to say, okay, I'm going to take a step back. Don't have to keep trying to talk yourself into something, right? If it feels like, ooh, I don't know, you can just say, okay, take a pause, take a break, and let it be. And I just think that the universe does want to support and guide us, however we term that, God, spirit, higher self, you name it, really is working with and for us. And it's like, are we willing to just be like, well, let's start a conversation and see what happens?
Oh my goodness, that is probably the best way that you could put it. Let's start a conversation and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because once I started doing that with you, Stacey, and then practicing it, I am telling you, like, when we talk about self-trust, like people, everyone listening, if whether you have done something similar like this, that is usually what people are missing. Like we're still searching
Yeah.
out of ourselves, right? To
Yeah.
trust ourselves or for validation. And
Yeah.
now that I know this work, this the magic, if you will, of this, it's like I trust myself so much because I feel so supported. And
Mm.
I ask questions now, like, okay, spirit guide team, what are we going to do about this? And I always get the answer. I always get the answer. And lately I've been joking with my family because they all know about my red bird, right? My
Mm.
cardinal. And my 5-year-old calls him Redbird. He says, "Oh, our Redbird is here." We see him all the time. Sometimes there's 2 or 3. And when I walk outside, I'm like, I feel like Snow White because I say, "Redbird, chirp, 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 chirp."
I love it.
And especially when I'm having a hard day, I know, Stacey, I texted you a couple months ago letting you know that I was going through some things and
Mhm.
I literally walked outside and my bird came out for the longest amount of time. He was there with me for like, I want to say 10 minutes. And I would move in my backyard. And every time I moved, he went and chirped louder, like on a new tree,
I love
always
it.
letting me know that I'm there. And even when I can't see him, I can hear him. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
like, thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you, spirit team. Like, I always know that I'm supported. And it
And
is different.
yeah, and one time, and I don't remember who said this to me, but years ago, somebody said, we can believe in the world where we don't have spirit guides and we're not all connected, equally to a world that absolutely has magic and synchronicity and the guides. And it's like, which one do you want if they're both equally true? And I was like, I'm in for the magic.
Me too.
And again, to your point, which I love how you said this, it doesn't mean you have to abandon your belief system, right? If you are Christian or any other religion, I think of it like expanding.
Yes.
Humans want everything to be fit into certain ways, and when they don't understand something, then they want to exclude it because they don't understand. But to me, when you are willing to say, "I don't really exactly," when I'm outside calling Redbird and he shows right up, like, we don't have to know all of the, like, way it all works for us to trust. I love how you said that, to trust to know, "Hey." Yeah, and it's funny, I had a similar story. I was in, a garden, I don't know, last year, and there was a cardinal, and I call him Jack, as everybody knows. I wanna say way across the woods, like, probably, I don't know, it would've been a good hike to get over there, and there was this beautiful pond in the middle, and I had a friend with me, she goes, "Call him to you." And she's like, "Let's just have fun." Because if you don't say it doesn't mean anything if he doesn't fly over, right? Like we're just experimenting and saying,
Yes.
how are we connected to all things on this planet and be
Mm.
more playful? And so I said, okay, Jack, come on over. And like to your point, he flies right over, sits on the tree right above my head. And my friend was floored. She goes, I cannot believe that. And I said, I'm not special. And I mean that with
I
the
think you are.
thank you. But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't we all have these gifts. We all have these connections. And it's this, are we willing to be vulnerable, to just open ourselves up just a little bit to say, ooh, and again, noticing our safety, how we feel. This isn't supposed to be like throw yourself into all of this and get scared. It's these guides and these signs to me are here saying, "We love you. You got this." And as much as the world is telling you, you people don't, anything, don't like to me, I'm always like, the world is telling me now, I'm like, you don't know what you're doing, you're a mess, whatever. It's like this energy is always like, that's not true.
Yes.
That's just not true.
Yes. And you also get to define what this space looks like that we want to play in.
Ooh,
Like
love this. Yeah.
going back to like instead of being scared and
Mhm.
like let me invite more of that in, and if I can
Mhm.
believe anything that I want to believe, then of course I want to believe that I'm more supported. And
Yeah.
what happens when we believe something that is true, we get more evidence for it over and over and over.
That's a really good point. And that's your specialty too, right? Is like being able to create the mindset. It's also this belief like, I'm willing to practice this. I'm willing to believe there's synchronicities, or there maybe my loved ones do want to connect with me in a way, right? That lets me know that they're okay and that they're supported.
Oh wait, hold on, can I say, like you just said my loved ones, can I say about what happened?
You can share whatever you want to share, my friend. I would
It's
never share
gonna
your
be so
story
good
for
for
you.
everyone because I wouldn't have believed it if it didn't happen to me, right? Well, now I would. But so Stacey and I, Stacey texts me one evening and she says, "Does the name Sophie ring a bell or something with the name Sophie?" And I'm like, "Sophie, Sophie, Sophie, not Sophie, but Hopi." So my name is Esperanza, but my family all calls me Hopi because it's hope in English. I'm getting chills just thinking about this. And I'm
Me
like,
too.
Hopi. And you're like, yes, okay, Hopi. And then you said something else about James is my husband that passed away in 2014. You said something else about did he smoke? And he was a smoker. You wouldn't have known that. You wouldn't have known about Hopi.
I knew nothing.
Yeah, you knew nothing. And
Nothing.
it just is just such beautiful exemplifier of this magic and this work and this love, like once you're willing to allow it to come in.
Yeah.
Um, and then she said that the color blue, James has very blue crystal eyes. And he also had a blue, like he loved trucks. And we had just literally the week before he had passed away, we had just bought a blue 1964 Chevy truck. So I'm like, okay. And then the last thing that she said to me was chocolate.
Mhm.
And I just started laughing. I was in my kitchen on my phone. I just started laughing and crying because James made the best chocolate cake.
Mm,
And only my sons and I, Joshua and Xavier, and my sisters would know that.
mm,
And I remember saying, like, I want a message from James. Like, after I started, he had already passed away 6 years. And finally, I'm to the place where I want to receive and connect without being afraid or scared. And going back to like, you get to define what that looks like. And look at this beautiful gift that came to me.
yeah.
And I just love you forever for allowing that and having that space for me because it was
Oh,
such a gift to receive that message.
thank you. I am going to receive all that love and I am going to reciprocate it because it's a gift to be able to share and be a channel for people on this planet. And for a long time, as you know, doubted my own gifts. I mean, I grew up in a family and they were like, we don't get you and we don't understand what these things are. So, like, shut it down. And it took a long time for me to come to a place like, no, these are things that I can offer the world and myself, again, to help people be connected to the energy of love. Like when we're talking about creating impossible things on this planet, we're not going to do it the way the world is wired or the old paradigm. We're not. We're going to blow all that shit up, and I mean metaphorically, and we're going to wire the world in a new way. And in
Mm.
order to create all that, those things that again the world taught us for a long time are impossible, love, guidance, support, I call it the realms at large, right? Like just the way that not just this planet, but our souls have traveled for so long. Why not tap into that to have more fun here, more ease? Most of us,
Yes.
have done the hard shit. We
Yeah.
all have. We live it, we know it, we can speak to it, and we also don't have to stay in that space. We can absolutely say, okay, we can have more fun. We can make this easier. And I believe like the spirit guide teams are absolutely here to be like, yeah, we're in for that. Let's figure out how to have some more fun.
Yeah.
And I love how you just modeled that vulnerability so much by being willing to ask, because people always say, how do I get started? And it's like everything is always around us, but it's not going to impose itself. It's not going to be like, hey, Esperanza, I'm going to tell you, right, and put it on you. It's just going to say, we're here when you're ready, if you want anything. We are absolutely, at your service in such a way. Like I always think like dream team, right?
I
Status.
love it. Yes.
Yeah. People we've loved that's past, guides, people in real life. Like I believe you've been a guide for me. I know we feel that about each other. And that's a new way of operating that again, I know the world is forever changed by you being here and being able to just invite that expansion around your intuition, because I felt it soon as I met you. I was like, "Ooh, she's got it. I can feel it. It's fierce." And then just again helping people access that in a way for themselves, not the Stacey way, because I don't care about the Stacey way. I just care about the Esperanza way for Esperanza, because that's going to be most meaningful for you if you do it your way.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely. Ah,
I
so
love this. I love. Let's just go out and just invite everybody on the planet to come back, right, to their own knowings, come back and take that first step of just maybe your first step is just thinking, hey, maybe it is possible, right? Just like a big goal, just like your gifts, maybe it is. Maybe that bird I'm seeing or that message I'm seeing on the radio, maybe there is something there for me that's again not meant to hurt me, but really here to support and love me.
yes, because I think about now my spirit guide team and my intuition as like the most amazing champions, like coaching me like the MVP player, no matter what I'm doing.
Mm.
And you can't outrun purpose. So why not have them team up on your side to help you with whatever your journey is meant to do, like whatever you're meant to do in this world?
I love
There's,
it.
whew,
I'm surprised we're not breaking the internet. Your energy, my energy together.
I know, right? Yeah.
Thankfully, the technology is working, because that definitely can happen too. You and I we could affect the interwebs of all the energetic
Yes.
pipelines. So I want to ask you, again, people might be like, oh my gosh, this Esperanza energy is charismatic and magnetic, and they want to find out more about you. Maybe they want to connect with you on social media, or interested in your programs. Tell us, how can we get closer into the pool of Esperanza?
Yes, you can follow me at Esperanza L Lebron on Instagram. It's my handle. And then my website is Execute It, and that's with two E's. So EEXECUTEIT.com. And you can join my life coaching program, the Life Coaching Lounge.
Ooh, I love it. Yes. So, and definitely Instagram, you got to get connected to Esperanza, because her messages are they're like just bite-sized inspiration every day. Your, fa- I just see your face and I feel a shift in my body. So,
Thank you.
again, this is how energy and all this stuff works. It's not just having to show up and do things perfectly, but just showing up as who we are and allowing that just to keep
Totally.
expanding and not having to do it by ourselves. Because I know for you, when you were sharing your story, you probably felt really alone when you were in that space of a teenage mom. And it's like, I've got to make this happen for myself. And I felt the same way for years. And it's like, what if yes, it is me, and it
And
can be so much more fun to have again. Handpick your dream spirit team and have some fun with it. It doesn't have to be all serious.
definitely 100%.
Oh, this
Yeah.
has been so much fun. What a pleasure and a privilege and all the things to be able to chat with you today. I am so happy everybody was here. This has been an incredible episode, and we can't wait. I can't wait to see you again for the next episode, where we're going to be chatting again about how to bring enchantment into your daily life way intentionally, if that's a way to say it, and doing it with a lot of ease.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, I love you.
Oh, I love you so much. That's it for now, loves. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. Get all the juicy details and links we've mentioned in the show notes. If learning more about how you can use your own enchantment to live a oh hell yes life, come get your own coaching session with me by going to staceyandon.com and signing up for my homepage. And as always, come chat with me about this topic and all things enchantment in my Facebook group, Everyday Enchantment. See you on the flip side.